if you can master chess and reframing that, master how to think and how to be strategic, you're going to help your business in so many new ways. Chess is this lens. And I say this and I argue that in the world that we're in right now, where we have AI and we are really, I think, sometimes struggling to tap into that creative side, a lot of the times, chess is going to help you master these new skills. You need to learn. And even if it's just the basics of how the pieces move, I'm not expecting everyone to become the next Judith Polgar or Magnus Carlsen or anything like that. But I'm saying what I want you to do is just gain those initial skill sets. And then you'll find yourself actually looking at a chessboard and saying like, oh yeah, there's some decisions I'm thinking through. There's some things that I want to brainstorm. You'll find yourself doing that, because I've had so many athletes and executives say, I never thought about learning chess, but now when I look at a chessboard, I can see my business and I can start to map stuff out and it feels really good. They're not playing chess every day, but they have a chess mindset. And that's really what I want people to get out of it.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the founder and CEO of Queenside Ventures, Ashley Priore. Queenside Ventures is a strategy and leadership consulting firm that helps individuals and organizations think more clearly, lead more confidently, and perform under pressure using chess as a framework for real-world decision-making. Ashley, so excited to have you on. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we always like to ask our entrepreneurs to tell us more about their journey. What were you doing before that kind of led you on the path you're on today?
I love this question, and it's funny. The one constant through it all is absolutely chess. Everything else, I feel like every business owner and entrepreneur's journey is like, all over the place, right? All the ups and downs, but chess has been the constant for me. So I began playing competitive chess at about 4 years old. My siblings played. I grew up in a household where chess was just part of it. Right. And so I had loved playing competitively, but at the same time, it is a very interesting space. I don't know how much listeners know about the competitive chess space, but I want you to imagine any other sport, whether it's football, soccer, basketball, and then add on to that the fact that you are spending the entire day looking at a chessboard. And it is basically what my old chess teacher used to say, like hours upon hours of exercise for your brain. It is an intense day. Tournaments go from like 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., sometimes longer. And when you're in the scholastic chess space, I mean, it's exciting, but it's also intense, but you learn a lot, right? So I knew from a very early age that chess was teaching some really important skills. If you are in the consulting space, or if you are in really, I would say any business space, you will hear people say, play chess, not checkers. They're playing chess. You will hear people maybe say pawns or queens or knights, right? And you can see that in the imagery. You can see chessboards, right, in imagery when it comes to consulting firms, right? And so I was always curious about that. As I continued in the competitive chess journey, there was a point where I had to decide if I was going to keep doing that or if I wanted to pursue other interests. And I had always loved coaching chess and teaching chess. So there was a time when I really just started with youth, and I started Queen's Gambit, which is a nonprofit organization, back in 2014. And our goal was exactly that, to teach chess to kids and help them learn critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, decision-making skills, all these really important tools to help them grow. As I was teaching youth, I always had this interest and this hunger for, how can we do this holistically? What about adults? What about people in all aspects of their life? And my favorite story is that when I was graduating from the University of Pittsburgh, my major was in English literature and political science. Why? Because I feel like I was not interested in finance at that time. It probably would have been helpful as a business owner and entrepreneur, right, to have that. But I said, you know what, I'm going to try what I'm really interested and passionate about. Because when you are doing the business stuff during the day, as I was, and also in school, I wanted to have another outlet. And that's why I was interested in English and politics, which is also sort of like the framework for how people think, right? Which is really interesting. I was graduating from Pitt, and I was sitting with my dear friend and mentor, and I was like, I'm not sure what to do next. Like, I had Queen's Gambit under my belt. I was doing consulting for free for years. And one thing that I think is hilarious is that for a lot of people in my generation, especially Gen Z and millennials, people always assume they're good at social media or, communications or talking and marketing and things. And so I was doing that for free for years. I was advising on social media things. And and always using a framework that I had for chess to help me, but I didn't have any language around that. So I connected, talking with my mentor, and I said, what should I do next? Like, how should I figure out my path? Like, what do I do? And she said, well, Ashley, you spent years doing consulting for free, which is completely annoying. And she's like, I'm frustrated by that for you. But also, you love talking about how chess fits into all other areas of life and you love sports. So, what would it look like if you reached out to sports teams or you reached out to executives and you used chess as a new type of strategy to help executives and leaders think? And that's exactly what I did. And everyone asks me these questions about, like, well, how did you first get in with NFL teams, or how did you first get your gig? And it was really just outreach. I remember I sent cold emails to people in NFL organizations. When you're in the NFL, we have what we call player engagement. So those are folks who work directly with athletes and help them on the education side or family side. And I just reached out to them and I said, hey, here's my background. I play competitive chess. I have started an organization, but I'm also really interested in helping you with mental performance and teaching you how to think. Can I come in and teach chess and apply that to your athletes and what they're interested in? And I always say, out of all the emails you send, somewhere in there, you're going to get a yes somewhere. And that's what happened. So that's how it really started and evolved. And I know we can talk about where Queenside is now. I think that it all started from just that initial outreach and taking something that I was very, very passionate about and understanding what's next. Where do I go? How can I translate it? How can I formulate it? And that's sort of how we got to Queenside.
A lot of the concepts and the frameworks that you mentioned are what other business owners and entrepreneurs are kind of going through. Sometimes they need some direction, some clarity, figure out what they're doing. Maybe they're not confident in their offer. They're wondering if the outreach or the inbound that I'm working on, is it effective? Is it working? If you just keep going, if you stick with it, if
Mhm.
you have something, people will be interested.
Exactly. And that's what I think we sometimes struggle with. And I think when you teach young people this, and then you can grow with it as you're an adult, it's that perseverance. And we don't talk about that enough. I think in entrepreneurship, you are not going to get the first, deal or everything that you want automatically. I mean, it is going to take some time. And as I say, when you're sending out these emails or you're formulating your strategy, that's going to take time. The first emails that I sent out to connect with players or executives, I know that wasn't my best work. And when I'm looking back, it probably doesn't describe what I'm doing now, but it helped. And I was just, the more I reach out, the more I send things to people, the more I communicate, you get where you need to be. And I also think that, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, chess is something that you're doing every day. You are balancing multiple decisions. You are understanding sacrifices. You're like, if I make this choice, what's going to happen here? If I do this, what's going to happen here? Chess is actually just a great framework to practice those things. It's a way for you to practice on something that is less scary than real world decisions, right? You have a board in front of you. You can understand, what are the pieces that I have? How are they moving? Why am I moving them where I'm moving them, right? And that's what we do with executives. And I love talking about it too, especially in marketing and social media, because a lot of this is, how will things resonate with your audience, right? Chess is a great framework for that. You talk through it with yourself. You say, okay, if I go this route, or if I do this campaign, what are some questions that I need to think of? How might people respond? What if they don't respond well? What if they respond great? And just go through all of those questions in your head and work through it. Everyone's doing chess every day. We just don't realize it.
Right. And if you were to take the chess pieces of the game and apply them to either the business, the entrepreneur, the organization, would it be the roles or the clients or the systems or tactics they're using? How do you kind of, equate those chess pieces into business and marketing?
I love that question. We do something that I call mapping out your own personal chessboard. When we look at the pieces, we have a lot of feelings to them already, right? I ask people, when you look at this chess piece, what do you think of? And they see the rooks, right? The rooks are lining in front. They see the king and the queen. They see the knight. And they're like, well, I'd love to be the king or the queen. I'd love to be that person that is like making the decisions and having influence and just doing the best that I can do. And I say, okay, that's great. That's great. You want to be a king or a queen. And then I say, well, what piece do you think you actually are? right? And we talk through how each piece moves, what each piece does. And they say, well, you know what? I feel like I'm maybe like a pawn or a knight. Like I know I could be doing better. I know I could be doing stronger, but I have to hold down this sport and I have to hold down this and I have to do this. Then I say, okay, we're getting to the core here. Each chess piece is going to represent something different to you at a different time. What's important for us is that you say to yourself, okay, who are my pawns? And if I'm a pawn, that's okay. But who are your pawns? Who are your knights? Who are your bishops? They could be actual people or employees. They could be your products, especially if you are just a single member LLC or just you and your business, right? You're playing a lot of different roles. It could be maybe a really hard decision that you have to make. Maybe some of them are your competitors, right? Map all of that out because I guarantee you have that list already in your mind. You have it already, right? You can just start to map it out. And then you're going to say to yourself, how do these pieces interact? If I take one away, what role will that play? And I encourage people to view the king. Of course, even if you don't know anything about chess, one thing that we'll talk about right here is that, to win a chess game, you have to checkmate the king, right? Get the king in a spot where he's stuck and he can't move. The king should be your mission or vision or the sole purpose of your business or company or organization, right? You want to protect that king. You want to foster it. Every move that you're making goes back to that goal. So if you're making moves and decisions or taking away pieces that aren't supporting that king, then something bad is happening. Something wrong is happening, right? When I work with, especially, executives, they say, my boss is the queen. Maybe the mission of the company is the king. How do I move up? Or I'm really scared that I can easily be replaced, right? And we talk through these things together. And what they realize by the end is that they have their own unique set of skills. And each piece on the chessboard has its own unique set of skills too. So it's in a given situation, how are you working through that problem? How are you brainstorming what you need to be doing, right? And I think that chess for so long has been viewed as a very complicated, intense game and sport. Sometimes people are afraid to, learn chess. One of my favorite stories is when I worked with an executive and I said to her, okay, I'm going to put a chessboard in your office. And then when people come in, they can make a move if they want to when they're talking to you. And she's like, yeah, that would be great. So we put the chessboard in her office. And then she said, you know what, Ashley, I got so much work done this week because nobody wanted to come into my office to make a move. And I said, well, let's talk about that. What's scary for people about it? And as people had to come into her office to ask her questions, she asked them and they said, you know what, I just didn't know how to play. There's just so many pieces. Then we said, well, there's only 6 pieces on the board that you have to learn. It's just slowly building that skill set, slowly building those skills and mapping out your own chessboard. And I think anyone can do that. And that's the best exercise we can do to start. And it all grows from there.
I love that. Ashley, when people are kind of thinking, how can I apply this to my business? They're kind of questioning those same things like, do I need to be smart? Do I need to have a high IQ? But you share that actually having a deeper understanding of the mindset plus situational clarity is going to matter more than IQ. Can you explain a bit more of what that means?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I even felt this way when I first started my business, right? We feel like we have to be an expert in everything: legal, finance, HR, operations. We feel like we have to know every single thing. I say that you want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And as you're growing your business, you have to do that. There's no way you can be an expert in law and know all the right forms and NDAs and things to sign. No, you can't be. But you can learn how to have those conversations and the right people to reach out to. We do not start businesses, I find, because we are scared that we're not going to be good enough or we don't know what we're doing. Nobody knows what they are doing when they're first starting, but they learn and they adapt. And that is, I think, common across all of the entrepreneurs that we've connect with and that we talk to. What is so important is how you can respond to decisions in the moment. Pause before you make that big decision. Say to yourself, okay, if I am going to do this move or if I'm going to make this decision, what's going to happen? So many times as entrepreneurs, we get, scared if, there's a complaint or someone who reaches out and they're not happy. And I get that. There's so much emotion. We feel so strong and intense because we want everyone to view our business in a great way. I get that. But you take a moment first and you analyze. The worst thing that you can do is just quickly do something and regret sending something out. I don't know how many people have had that, but it's 9 o'clock at night, you get an email you don't like and you're like, I need to respond. I need to say something. I need to fix this, right? What separates people with the high IQ and the people that are still absolutely smart but have this strategic mindset is that they say, you know what, I'm going to wait. I'm going to think this through. I'm going to pause for a moment and say, I might have an answer. I might know how I need to respond, but I'm going to wait until I have all the facts, or I'm going to wait until I can put together a really articulate email in response, because nothing's going to shift terribly in the time that you're going to wait to send that, right? That's how I like to think and really break it down for people. I'd also say that when I first started Queenside, it was just me, and just so many people start their organizations, it's just them. And you learn to become very, very resilient and very confident in saying, I don't know what the right answers are, but I'm going to learn and connect with people who can. And I think that's also what chess teaches, right? I might not know the right move to make in this position, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit with it. I'm not going to rush. And I'm going to look at all the facts. How does this piece move? This piece moves like this, okay? And if this piece moves like this, when I go here, can they take me? If they can take me, that's okay. Maybe I shouldn't move there, right? Slowing it down. That sometimes scares people because entrepreneurs are always moving so fast, balancing all the things. And is scary. That's so scary, but you're practicing with it. Practice on a chessboard where it can feel safe and empowering. And I think you're going to see really exciting results.
Absolutely. Oftentimes, just like you were saying, it's sometimes that quick emotional reaction will cause us to do things that our clear mindset would never even dream of doing. So yes, that patience really plays a role in that, so you can think more clearly. And interestingly enough, is I feel like chess players both have kind of like that situational based on factors of where the opponent is moving, but they
Like,
also have some sort of their own preset game plans, almost like a business owner might have. Here are my first 6 moves that I'm thinking about doing. At what point do we focus on what the competitor is doing, what the other opponent is doing, versus sticking with your game plan and strategy that you set out to start with?
absolutely. And I hear this all the time because so many times we focus on what our opponent is doing and then we lose sight of our own goals and our plan because we're worried about copying them. What I love to show people is that in the beginning of a chess game, if you make the same exact moves as your opponent, it's not going to end well, right? Because someone's going to capture something first. You cannot continuously follow what they're doing. It's just not going to work, right? You're always going to be one step behind. They're going to do a move that you can't do, right? They're seeing things that you're not seeing. It's just not going to work. So, what I tell people is that you first need to understand your strategy, your goals, why you started, and literally keep that at the front of everything you're doing. Whether it's on your desk, you have a post-it note and you say, here's the mission, here's what I want to achieve, like all of those core things. You have that in the front of your mind. It is important to do what your competitor is doing. And as chess players, we are very competitive. We want to win, we want to succeed, we want to be the best. But you can't do that if you don't have clarity and a great plan yourself. When I work with people, I often hear them saying, oh, I have a plan. And I said, okay, great. What's your plan? They're like, well, I know that you're going to make this move right here, and then I can take this piece. And then I say, well, what if I don't do that? Like, what if I completely throw you off and do something totally different? And they're like, well, I know you're going to do that move. I haven't thought about that. And that's the problem. We assume our opponents are going to do like the best thing, right? And we should prepare for that, but we should also prepare for all of the other potential scenarios. So I would say it's like 60-40, right? 60% of really understanding where we are, what our position is. And of course, you take the time to understand what your opponent's doing and how you're responding to them. But you need to be solid where you are first and really try to balance that. And chess can be challenging for some people because you have to understand what you're doing just as much as what your opponent's doing. And sometimes we don't want to do that. But in order to win and to succeed, we have to.
That is very well said. Now, Ashley, where can people find you and connect with you online?
Yeah, of course. I would love for people to connect. So they can visit queensideventures.com, send us a note, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with people. A lot of people are like, where can I play against you with chess? You absolutely can find me on chess.com or any of those platforms. And I encourage people to certainly try it out and test it out. But if you want especially more resources on these things or to just connect in general about chess and how it can be helpful, please reach out to queensideventures.com and we'll absolutely get back to you.
Wonderful. And we'll have those links available down in the show notes and the description so everyone can get connected here. Ashley, if you had to start from zero, start all over again to start the business you're in right now, what would be your first 30, 60, 90-day sort of focus?
I would absolutely say that I would have less fear of what people said and say to me and just send the emails, do the outreach, say yes to more opportunities. I found myself when I was first starting not saying yes to things because I didn't think that I was there yet. I was not ready. Like I said, oh, I don't know if I should speak at this because I just don't know what I'm talking about yet. Or I don't have the client pool yet, or I don't know how to do this thing. You can learn as you go. The reason you're being invited into those spaces is because you do have something to say. So I would have just said yes, and I would have reached out to more people. Sometimes I remember I would see things or see people I wanted to connect with on LinkedIn, or maybe somebody I saw in an article and I said, man, I really think they could benefit from these things. But I was scared to reach out because I was like, well, why would they want my expertise? They could reach out to anyone. Right. And you never know if somebody's going to need your expertise or not. You don't. You should just reach out. Right. So it's saying yes to those opportunities. It's connecting with people. And I'd also say it's a bit of this combination of like, it's not necessarily the confidence, it's just the will of being like, sometimes people aren't going to respond or sometimes I might not know something. And that's okay. I need to be comfortable in that.
That is so important. Yeah, we can really get in our own heads sometimes and beat ourselves up. And why should we tell ourselves no before the other? We should let
Absolutely.
them tell us instead of ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the worst thing that we can do in business. And I think every entrepreneur has probably felt that way, or especially if you're in marketing, right? You're not going to do that post because you're like, oh my God, I'm afraid of what people are going to think. What are my friends going to think? And I will just say that if you are posting like your other business owners' posts, and if your family of those people also like them, because that goes a very long way. I see people being like, oh, I saw your post. And then I'm like, you want to engage. You want to make sure that you like and share it because it can be hard for that person to post and that entrepreneur to post, but share that and connect and make sure that they feel that love and support.
Absolutely. Now, Ashley, what are you looking forward to most over the next year? Do you have anything kind of in the works? Are you launching or scaling anything within your business?
Absolutely. So we're working through what we're calling some nice assets for companies and businesses. It's going to be, we call it how to unleash your inner queen. That's the broad category. What's like how can you use chess to help you gain skills that you didn't have before? So we're going to be releasing some packets and worksheets and tools so that if you do not know anything about chess, and that maybe you don't have the time to like have full sessions or to learn, you can download these workbooks and try it for yourself. And there's also some exercises in there where if you're struggling with some questions or you're struggling with maybe what you're going to do with your business, making decisions, these workbooks and questions can really help you outline what you're going to do next. So I'm excited about that. I'll also say that I'm excited about with my dear friend and mentor who I mentioned earlier, Audrey Russo. She is the head of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. Her and I are starting up a new podcast about intergenerational friendships and how that can empower your business. So it's called Does Age Really Matter? So we'll have more info about that on Queenside's website. But that's important to us because intergenerational relationships are so important, especially where we are now.
I totally agree. I find that a lot of great relationships and mentorships blossom from those opportunities. So, gosh, why not collaborate and share more information? Like this is just so motivating.
Exactly, 100%.
I love it. Ashley, do you have I wanted to leave like a closing argument option for you. If you want 1 to 2 minutes to share anything you want with our audience of business
Mhm.
owners, entrepreneurs, now's your time. You have the floor.
I love it. Anytime I get asked something like this, there's so many things that I do want to say to people, but I think the most important thing is that I've had so many business owners say to me, I'm just not going to learn chess. It's too hard. I don't have time. It's just something I have so many things going on in my life, whether it's kids, whether it's also their business, working a couple of jobs, doing all the things. And they're like, I just don't have time, or I've tried to learn chess before and it didn't work. I want to say, try it again with this new lens of that it can help your business. If you can master chess and reframing that, master how to think and how to be strategic, you're going to help your business in so many new ways. Chess is this lens. And I say this and I argue that in the world that we're in right now, where we have AI and we are really, I think, sometimes struggling to tap into that creative side a lot of the times, chess is going to help you master these new skills. You need to learn. And even if it's just the basics of how the pieces move, I'm not expecting everyone to become the next Judith Polgar or Magnus Carlsen or anything like that. But I'm saying what I want you to do is just gain those initial skill sets And then you'll find yourself actually looking at a chessboard and saying like, "Oh yeah, there's some decisions I'm thinking through. There's some things that I want to brainstorm." You'll find yourself doing that because I've had so many athletes and executives say, "I never thought about learning chess, but now when I look at a chessboard, I can see my business and I can start to map stuff out and it feels really good." They're not playing chess every day, but they have a chess mindset, and that's really what I want people to get out of it.
Ashley, that is wonderful. Thank you for coming on and sharing your tips, tricks, and wisdom with us. Really looking forward to everything you have working and going on for you. Make sure you check out the links available down in the show notes and the description here. And for those who made it this far, I do have a free lead magnet offer for you. It is the Growth Engine Framework. It's a PDF I put together on how I grew 5, 6, and 7-figure businesses for other people and myself. So if you want, go ahead and check a copy and check out the links and show notes for Ashley's connection links as well. Ashley, thank you again for coming on the show, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.